The emergency room smelled like antiseptic, exhaustion, and fear. Daniel Carter sat in a hard plastic chair beneath the harsh fluorescent lights, his 7-year-old daughter asleep against his chest, and for the first time in years he couldn't stop the tears. It was 12:43 a.m. Around him, doctors rushed from room to room. Monitors beeped. Nurses moved quickly through crowded hallways. Families whispered prayers. Some waited for good news. Others prepared for the worst. Daniel felt completely alone. His daughter Lily had been sick for weeks. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a stubborn flu. Then came the fevers that wouldn't break. The fatigue, the frightening weight loss. Earlier that evening, Lily had collapsed while brushing her teeth. Now she lay in a hospital bed behind the curtain only a few feet away. Doctors were running tests. More tests. Always more tests. Daniel had already missed several days of work. The stack of unpaid bills waiting on his kitchen counter felt heavier than ever. He was a single father trying to hold together a life that seemed determined to fall apart. His wife Sarah had died 3 years earlier in a car accident. Since then, every decision, every sacrifice, every sleepless night had belonged to him alone, and now his little girl was lying in an emergency room while he sat helplessly outside. The weight finally crushed him. He lowered his head into his hands and cried, not quietly, not politely. He cried like a man whose heart had run out of strength. A few people glanced over before returning to their own worries. But one person didn't. Across the waiting area sat a woman in a navy blue coat. She appeared to be in her early 50s, elegant, composed, the kind of person who seemed entirely out of place in a crowded R at midnight. For several minutes, she simply watched him. Then she stood. Daniel quickly wiped his eyes. Embarrassed, the woman approached slowly and sat in the empty chair beside him. Neither spoke for a moment. Finally, she said softly, "How old is she?" Daniel looked toward the curtain. 7? The woman nodded. "My son was 7 too." Something in her voice made him look closer. There was pain there. Old pain, the kind that never fully leaves. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. The woman smiled sadly. "Thank you." Silence settled between them. Then she surprised him. "I know that pain too." Daniel swallowed. Most people said things like everything will be okay or stay positive. This woman didn't. She didn't offer empty promises. She simply understood. And somehow that felt better. "My wife died 3 years ago," Daniel admitted. The words came out before he could stop them. The woman listened. No interruptions. No judgment. Just listening. "I've been raising Lily alone ever since." His voice cracked. "She's all I have." The woman stared toward the floor. "I understand that more than you know." Daniel recognized her face suddenly. Not from personal experience, from television, business magazines, news articles. His eyes widened. "You're Victoria Reynolds." The woman laughed quietly. "I was wondering when you'd figure that out." Victoria Reynolds, the billionaire widow, owner of one of the largest real estate companies in America, known for her philanthropy, known for her fortune, known for appearing on magazine covers. Yet here she sat in a crowded emergency room at nearly 1 in the morning. Daniel blinked. "What are you doing here?" Her eyes drifted toward another hallway. "My sister had surgery tonight." Then her expression softened, and hospitals bring back memories. Daniel nodded. He didn't ask for details, but after a moment she volunteered them anyway. "My husband died of cancer 11 years ago." The words landed heavily. "He spent months in hospitals." Her voice remained steady. "Money couldn't save him." Daniel looked down. Victoria continued. "People assume wealth protects you from grief." She shook her head. "It doesn't." For a long moment, they sat together as strangers connected by loss. Then a doctor appeared. Daniel immediately stood, his heart pounded. The doctor motioned him aside. Victoria quietly remained seated. Daniel's stomach twisted as he listened. The physician explained the test results. "A rare autoimmune disorder. Serious but treatable. Not cancer, not terminal. Treatable." The word echoed in Daniel's head. Treatable. Relief nearly knocked him off his feet. But then came the next part. Specialists, medication, long-term treatment, insurance complications, costs, thousands and thousands of dollars. The relief quickly tangled with fear. The doctor left. Daniel leaned against the wall. His emotions spun wildly. Lily was going to live, but how would he afford her care? He returned to the waiting area. Victoria immediately noticed his expression. "She's going to be okay." Daniel nodded. Tears filled his eyes again. "Yes," Victoria smiled, the smile of someone who understood exactly how precious that word could be. "That's wonderful." Then Daniel told her the rest. The costs, the uncertainty, the impossible financial burden. Victoria listened carefully. When he finished, she asked a simple question. "Do you love your daughter?" Daniel stared. "More than my own life." Victoria nodded. "I believed you'd say that." The conversation drifted elsewhere after that. They spoke about parenting, about loss, about resilience, about the strange ways people survive heartbreak. An hour later, a nurse announced visiting hours were ending. Victoria stood. "So this is goodbye." Daniel offered his hand. "Thank you." She shook it, then said something unexpected. "Sometimes people enter our lives for a reason." Before he could respond, she left. Daniel never expected to see her again. The next morning, reality returned. Hospital forms, insurance calls, treatment plans, stress, fear, the usual burdens. Then a hospital administrator appeared in Lily's room. She carried a folder. "Mr. Carter." Daniel nodded. The woman smiled. I have some news. She opened the folder. Your daughter's treatment expenses have been fully funded. Daniel stared. What? The administrator smiled again. An anonymous donor established a medical trust on Lily's behalf. His jaw dropped. No. The woman nodded. Every treatment, every specialist, every medication. Daniel felt dizzy. This can't be real. It is. Tears instantly filled his eyes. Who did it? The administrator hesitated. I'm not authorized to say, but Daniel already knew. There was only one possible answer. A week later, after Lily was discharged, he found an envelope waiting in his mailbox. Inside was a handwritten note. No signature, only a few lines. You reminded me of the father my husband wanted to be. You reminded me that courage isn't found in boardrooms or bank accounts. It's found in people who refuse to give up on those they love. Take care of your little girl, and when life gives you the chance, help someone else. Daniel read the note 3 times, then carefully folded it. Years passed. Lily grew stronger, healthier, happier. The treatments worked. She returned to school, made friends, played soccer, laughed again. Life slowly healed. Daniel never forgot the woman from the emergency room. But the greatest surprise came 5 years later. Lily was 12 when she convinced her father to volunteer at a local children's hospital. Every Saturday, they visited young patients. They brought books, games, encouragement. Sometimes they simply sat beside frightened families who needed someone to listen. One afternoon, Daniel noticed an elderly man sitting alone in the waiting area. The man looked exhausted, defeated, the same way Daniel had looked years ago. Without hesitation, Daniel walked over. How old is she? He asked gently. The man blinked. 8. Daniel smiled softly. Then he sat beside him. For the next hour, he listened. Really listened. No advice, no speeches, just compassion. When the conversation ended, the man squeezed Daniel's hand. Thank you. Daniel nodded. As he walked away, he spotted Lily watching from across the room. She smiled knowingly, and in that moment, he understood something powerful. The greatest gift Victoria Reynolds had given him wasn't money. It wasn't medical care. It wasn't even hope. It was an example. She had shown him what true humanity looked like. A stranger seeing another stranger's pain and choosing not to walk away. A simple act of kindness that changed an entire future years earlier. A billionaire widow had sat beside a broken father in an emergency room at midnight and said, I know that pain, too. Because of that moment, a little girl got to grow up. A father got to keep his daughter. And countless others would eventually receive kindness from people whose lives had been touched by that single act of compassion. Sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is not solve someone's problem. Sometimes it's simply sitting beside them in their darkest hour and reminding them they are not alone. And every now and then, that small act of humanity changes everything.